I used to believe Ryan was the kind of man you could trust with your whole heart. He appeared in my life on a rainy afternoon, charming and magnetic, with a smile that made the world feel warmer. He caught my falling bag at a coffee shop and, somehow, from that small moment, he caught me too. He was perfect, or at least he knew how to look perfect. Flowers at work, surprise dinners, late night walks where he promised a future only we could see. 3 months in, he told me he loved me. His green eyes locked on mine, steady and certain, and I whispered it back, believing I'd found something real. But lies, they don't stay hidden forever. At first, the cracks were small: missed calls, odd excuses, a business trip that dragged longer than it should. And then there was the perfume, sweet, unfamiliar, lingering on his shirt. When I questioned him, his answers came smooth, rehearsed. "Emily, you're overthinking again," he'd say, kissing me like he could erase my doubts. And I let him, because I wanted to believe, until the night everything shattered. He said he was working late, so I brought dinner to his office as a surprise. The building was quiet, the hallway dim, but from behind his closed door I heard laughter, a woman's laughter. My stomach dropped. I pushed the door open, and there he was, leaning against his desk, tie loosened, lips on a woman who wasn't me. The world went still. I couldn't breathe. He looked up, eyes wide with panic. "Emily, it's not what it looks like." The woman just smirked, fixing her blouse, like I was an inconvenience. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I simply walked out, my body numb, my heart breaking with each step. That night, I cried until I was empty. But somewhere between the tears, something shifted inside me. Ryan thought his lies would destroy me, that I'd crumble or beg for him back. But he didn't know me. He didn't know what happens when love turns into betrayal. Because I wasn't going to forgive. I wasn't going to forget. I was going to lie better. And that night, my revenge began. The morning after I found Ryan with that woman, I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror for what felt like hours. My eyes were swollen from crying, my lips dry, my whole body aching with betrayal. But underneath the mess of tears and exhaustion, I saw something sharper: anger, resolve. Ryan had lied about loving me, lied about our future, lied about who he really was. And if he could build a world of lies so easily, then I could do the same but better. When he called the next day, I didn't answer. I let his messages pile up: apologies, excuses, desperate attempts to twist the story. "She means nothing, Emily. I swear you're the one I love." I could practically hear the false sincerity in his voice even without picking up. 2 days later, I finally agreed to meet him. Not because I wanted closure, but because I wanted to see his face when he realized I wasn't the broken girl he thought I'd be. We met at our usual cafe. He walked in looking disheveled, his shirt wrinkled, his hair a mess. He slid into the booth across from me, reaching for my hand, but I pulled back. "Emily, please," he started, voice low and urgent. That night was a mistake. I was drunk. She came on to me. It meant nothing. I laughed, not bitterly, but softly, almost amused. "Ryan, stop. You don't need to perform. I know what I saw." He froze, his eyes darting like he was searching for the right line in a play he hadn't rehearsed. That's when I leaned in, my voice steady. "But here's the thing," I whispered. "You think you're good at lying. You think you can talk your way out of anything. But you've never met me like this. Because now, Ryan, I'm lying too. And I promise, I'm better at it than you'll ever be." The look on his face: confusion, fear, disbelief, was almost satisfying enough. Almost, but not yet. That night, I began planning. Revenge wasn't about screaming or exposing him in a single blow. No, it had to be slow, subtle. The kind of revenge that made him question everything. The kind that would eat at him from the inside until he crumbled. The first step was simple: pretending to forgive him. When he showed up at my apartment, a few days later, with flowers and an apology that could have won an Oscar, I let him in. I listened, I nodded. I even let him hold me while he whispered promises to do better. And then, I said the words he was dying to hear: "I forgive you." His shoulders sagged with relief. He kissed my forehead and told me he loved me again. And I smiled, not because I believed him, But because the game had officially begun, over the next few weeks, I played the perfect girlfriend. I cooked his favorite meals, laughed at his jokes, went out with him to parties where he paraded me around like a trophy. To anyone watching, we were the picture of reconciliation. But beneath the surface, I was pulling strings, carefully weaving lies of my own. Day by day, I built a web of lies, each one carefully designed to mirror the same tricks he'd used on me. And the more he doubted me, the harder he tried to hold on. He became clingy, desperate, terrified of losing me exactly how I had once been with him. And the best part? He didn't even realize it was all deliberate. He thought he was losing me because of his own mistakes, not because I was leading him exactly where I wanted him to go. Revenge wasn't a single act. It was an art form. And I was just getting started. By the time a month had passed, Ryan was no longer the confident, smooth-talking man who once swept me off my feet. He was restless, insecure, always watching me as though I might slip away at any moment. And that was exactly the effect I wanted. But revenge isn't just about making someone sweat, it's about teaching them what it feels like to drown in the lies they once fed you. I decided to turn his favorite weapon against him, charm. One evening, Ryan and I attended a small party hosted by one of his colleagues. The room buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and low music. I wore a red dress he'd once said was his weakness, and I made sure every step, every smile, every glance was calculated. I caught the attention of a man across the room, a tall, kind-eyed acquaintance from work. I knew Ryan noticed the way Michael leaned in when I spoke, how he laughed a little too easily at my jokes, how his hand brushed my arm once, briefly, in casual familiarity. Ryan's jaw tightened. His grip on my waist became possessive, almost painful. "You're enjoying yourself," he muttered into my ear, trying to sound casual. I smiled sweetly, just being friendly. That night, after the party, his jealousy spilled over. He paced my living room, voice sharp, words tumbling out. "You were flirting with him, Emily. Don't deny it. I saw the way he looked at you." I folded my arms, calm and collected. "Funny, isn't it? That's exactly how I felt when I saw you with her." His face dropped, silence filling the room like a heavy fog. He opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. He had no defense, no excuse. And I savored the power shift. From then on, I fed his paranoia in doses. A missed call I didn't bother returning. A vague story about staying late at work. A smile when I received a text, followed by me tucking my phone away before he could peek. The beauty of it was that none of it was incriminating. I didn't need to cheat, didn't need to actually betray him. All I had to do was let his own insecurities chew at him until he couldn't tell the difference between truth and lies. And it worked. Ryan started showing up at my office unannounced, bringing lunch, pretending to be sweet but really scanning the room for threats. He'd text me dozens of times a day, demanding to know where I was, who I was with. His confidence was unraveling thread by thread, and I was the one pulling the strings. But I wasn't satisfied yet. I wanted him to feel the humiliation I felt, the sharp sting of betrayal, the public exposure of the truth. So I planted my next seed. I began keeping a little journal, harmless entries about my day, thoughts about my job, notes on errands. But between those pages, I slipped in carefully crafted lines about a man who didn't exist. He looked at me again today. "I can't stop thinking about him," Ryan suspects. "But he'll never know the truth." I made sure Ryan found it. I left it half tucked under a pillow one evening when he came over. His eyes scanned the words, his face palling, his hands trembling. "Emily, what is this?" His voice cracked. I looked at him steadily, my expression unreadable. "It's just writing. Not everything in a journal is real." But doubt was already carved into his mind. He couldn't unsee the words. He couldn't unfeel the fear that I was doing to him what he had done to me. The difference was, I never had to lie outright. I only had to let him believe I could. Watching him unravel was almost intoxicating. His lies had once made me feel powerless, like I was drowning in uncertainty. Now it was his turn, and I wasn't even breaking a sweat. Ryan was losing himself in the very game he created, and he didn't even realize that this was just the beginning. The cracks in Ryan's facade were no longer subtle. He was unraveling in ways he couldn't hide. His colleagues whispered about his temper at work, about the way he snapped at small mistakes, the way his once polished charm now seemed brittle. I heard about it through mutual connections. And the irony wasn't lost on Mim. Mr. Perfect was crumbling. And I hadn't even touched him directly. At home, it was worse. He called at all hours, demanding to know where I was, who I was with, why I hadn't answered sooner. His messages piled up, each one more frantic than the last. The same man who once told me I was overthinking now lived trapped inside his own paranoid imagination. And I wasn't done. One Friday evening, I suggested we go out to dinner. He agreed too quickly, desperate for any sign that I was still his. I chose a crowded restaurant, the kind where conversation buzzes and eyes wander. I made sure to wear the same red dress that drove him crazy. And I made sure to laugh just a little louder when the waiter cracked a joke. Ryan's jaw tightened. His hand gripped mine across the table, not with tenderness, but with possession. "Why are you smiling at him like that?" he hissed under his breath. "He's just being polite," I said smoothly, sipping my wine. But I knew what I was doing. Every little gesture, every casual glance, it all chipped away at him. And the beauty was that no one else could see it. To the outside world, we looked like a normal couple having dinner. But inside his head, he was spiraling. The next day, his paranoia boiled over. He showed up at my apartment unannounced, pounding on the door until my neighbors peeked out from theirs. I let him in. Calm as ever, while he stormed across the room, his words spilling out in a frantic rush. "Tell me the truth, Emily. Who is he? I know there's someone else. I can feel it." I tilted my head, crossing my arms. "Ryan, you sound insane." His eyes were wild, his breathing uneven. "Don't play games with me. I've been nothing but honest with you." I laughed then, cold and sharp. "Honest? Is that what you call what you did to me?" He froze, the weight of my words slamming into him. For once, he had no defense, no excuse. And I let the silence stretch, let it choke him. That night after he left, I knew the next phase of my plan had to be bigger. It wasn't enough to make him paranoid in private. I wanted him exposed. I wanted him humiliated. So I reached out to the woman I'd caught him with. Her name was Vanessa. At first, she was hesitant to talk, clearly embarrassed. But when I told her the truth, that she wasn't the only one, that Ryan had lied to both of us, her hesitation melted into anger. We met for coffee, two women on opposite sides of the same betrayal. She told me stories of his business, trips, the same nights he'd sworn to me he was working late. She showed me texts, gifts, the same rehearsed lines he'd fed me. He hadn't just lied to me, he'd lied to her too. That's when the idea formed. Together, we could end him. The plan was simple, a public reveal. We chose a mutual friends party, a place where Ryan would be surrounded by people who thought they knew him. Vanessa agreed to play along, and I promised her the satisfaction of seeing the truth laid bare. When the night came, Ryan walked in with me on his arm, smiling like he had everything under control. He didn't notice Vanessa at first, standing across the room. But when our eyes met, and I gave her the smallest nod, she crossed the floor and greeted him with a kiss on the cheek that froze him in place. The color drained from his face. He stammered, eyes darting between us, realizing too late that the lies he thought he buried were now standing side by side in front of him. And I smiled, because this was only the beginning of his real downfall. The party fell silent when Vanessa kissed Ryan's cheek. Conversations froze mid-sentence, eyes turned, and suddenly every guest was watching. Ryan stiffened beside me, his arm locked around mine as if holding on for dear life. "Vanessa," he stammered, his voice cracking. What are you doing here?" She smirked, her eyes flicking to me before settling back on him. "What do you mean, Ryan? You invited me. Or did you forget?" A ripple of whispers spread through the room. Ryan's confident mask began to slip, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. He tried to laugh, but the sound came out strained. That's not true. She's lying." I stepped forward, my voice calm but carrying enough for everyone to hear. "Funny? Ryan, that's what you said about me when I caught you with her in your office. The crowd gasped. All at once, the polished image Ryan had worked so hard to maintain shattered. People looked at him not with admiration, but with curiosity, judgment, even disgust. He tried to speak, but Vanessa pulled out her phone, holding up a series of messages. He'd sent her messages filled with the same words of love and devotion he once fed me. "This is the man who swore he was mine," she said clearly. "Looks like he was telling us both the same story." Ryan's face turned ashen. He reached for the phone, but Vanessa snapped it back, her expression triumphant. I folded my arms, tilting my head slightly. "Tell me, Ryan, which one of us did you love? Or was it just easier to lie to both?" The room buzzed. People whispering, phones out, recording, snapping pictures. His reputation wasn't just dented, it was collapsing in real time. Ryan looked at me, desperation etched across his features. "Emily, please, don't do this. We can fix this. I love you." I laughed softly, shaking my head. "You don't get it, do you? You taught me how to lie. You made me believe in something that never existed. And now it's your turn to live with the lies." He reached out, but I stepped back, my voice sharp enough to cut through the chatter. "Stay away from me." Vanessa and I walked out together, leaving him standing there, humiliated, broken, and exposed. Behind us, the noise of the party rose again, laughter, whispers. The sound of his downfall spreading like wildfire. That night, as I sat at home, I replayed the scene in my mind. The shock on his face, the way people looked at him, the moment he realized he had lost control. It wasn't just satisfying, it was liberating. But revenge isn't always a single act. It lingers, it grows, and I wasn't finished yet. Over the next few weeks, word spread quickly. Ryan's colleagues lost respect for him. Friends distanced themselves, tired of the drama and deception. Even his family began to question him. His once flawless image was tarnished. And every time he tried to defend himself, he sounded more desperate, more unhinged. He called me constantly, begging to meet, insisting that we could work through it. Sometimes I answered just to hear the crack in his voice. Other times, I let the silence remind him of what it felt like to be ignored, dismissed, unwanted. One evening, after a barrage of messages, I finally picked up. His voice was hoarse, pleading. "Emily, please. You're all I have left. I made a mistake, but I can change. Just give me another chance." I let a long pause stretch between us before answering. "You're right, Ryan. You do have nothing left. And that's exactly what you deserve." I hung up, my hands steady, my heart free. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one drowning in his lies. He was, and he would be for a very long time. Ryan's downfall wasn't instant, but it was inevitable. Lies don't dissolve overnight, they rot slowly, eating away at everything until there's nothing left. And I made sure to watch every step of his collapse. At work, the whispers about him turned into open contempt. Clients backed away. His boss, once proud of Ryan's smooth charm, began questioning his reliability. When Vanessa and I exposed him at that party, the proof of his deceit spread faster than he could contain it. Soon, no one trusted a word he said. His friends drifted off too. The ones who once admired him for his confidence now saw only desperation. When they looked at him, they didn't see a man, they saw a fraud. I, meanwhile, flourished. My career was stable, my friendships stronger. My nights finally free of the endless worry he once fed me. For the first time in months, I could breathe. But I wasn't content to just move on. Not yet, because Ryan still hadn't learned the lesson. What it feels like to be powerless in the face of someone else's lies. One evening, I agreed to meet him. He begged enough, and I wanted to see how far he had fallen. We chose a quiet park, far from the curious eyes of others. When I arrived, I almost didn't recognize him. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair unkempt, his eyes hollow from sleepless nights. "Emily," he said, his voice weak, almost broken. "Thank you for coming." I sat on the bench across from him, keeping my posture straight, my expression calm. "What do you want, Ryan?" He swallowed hard. "I know I messed up. I lied, I hurt you, I ruined everything. But I can change. If you just give me one more chance, just one, I'll prove it to you. For a moment, I studied him, as if weighing his words. In truth, I had already decided. I just wanted to watch him squirm. You know what the problem is, Ryan? I said finally, my tone sharp but steady. You never understood the weight of your lies. You thought words were cheap, that promises meant nothing. But lies have consequences. He leaned forward, desperation etched on his face. I know that now. Please, Emily, I can be better. I shook my head slowly. No, you can't. Because the truth is, I don't believe a word you say. And I never will again. His eyes glistened, the bravado he once wore, now gone. Please, he whispered, almost childlike. I stood, smoothing the fabric of my coat. You lied about loving me, Ryan, and I lied about forgiving you. That's the difference between us. You lied to get what you wanted. I lied to teach you a lesson. He froze, the words hitting him like a physical blow. For the first time, he understood, really understood that everything I'd done since that night wasn't reconciliation. It was retribution. I turned and walked away, my footsteps steady, leaving him crumbling on the bench, alone with nothing but his regret. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't even think of him with sadness. Instead, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on my balcony, and watched the city lights flicker. For once, the world felt wide open, full of possibilities, no longer clouded by his shadow. Revenge doesn't erase the past. It doesn't undo the pain, but it balances the scales. And in balancing them, I found freedom. Ryan lost everything: his reputation, his love, his control. And me, I walked away stronger, sharper, untouchable. He lied about loving me, but I lied better. And in the end, that's what saved me.